After he passed, she didn't just survive. She built a new life. The silence after they leave, it's not just the absence of a voice, it's the absence of a presence. The absence of a shared breath, a familiar rhythm, a quiet understanding that filled every corner of the house. For Anna, that silence had a name: David, her husband of 52 years. For half a century, their lives had been so intertwined, so perfectly synchronized, that she often wondered where she ended and he began. They finished each other's sentences, knew each other's thoughts with a glance, navigated life as a seamless unit. Then one Tuesday morning, David didn't wake up, and the silence began. If you've ever felt like a part of you died with them, if the world suddenly feels too big, too empty, too overwhelming to face alone, then stay with me. Because this is the story of Anna, who after David passed didn't just survive. She discovered a strength she never knew she had. She built a new life, not in spite of her loss, but woven with the threads of love and resilience. And in doing so, she found a way to honor David's memory, not by mourning his absence, but by living a life full of presence. The echoes of a shared life. Anna's grief wasn't a sudden, violent storm. It was a slow, pervasive fog that settled over everything. The house, once filled with laughter and the comforting sounds of David's presence, his humming, the rustle of his newspaper, the clinking of his coffee cup, now echoed with an unbearable emptiness. Every object, every room held a memory, a ghost of a shared life. She found herself performing daily rituals out of habit, not purpose. Making 2 cups of coffee, then pouring one down the drain. Setting 2 plates at dinner, then removing one. She'd sit in the living room watching television, but her eyes would always drift to David's empty armchair, a silent monument to his absence. It wasn't just that he was gone, it was that I was gone too. I was David's wife. My identity was so tied to him, to us. When he left, I felt like I lost my own name, my own purpose. Who was Anna without David? Friends and family visited, offering condolences, bringing casseroles. They meant well, but their words often felt hollow. He's in a better place. You're so strong. Time heals all wounds. Anna would nod, smile faintly, and retreat into the quiet sanctuary of her grief. The world outside seemed to move on, oblivious to her shattered reality. People hurried past on the street, cars drove by, the seasons changed. But Anna felt stuck, suspended in a timeless void of sorrow. She stopped going to her weekly bridge game. She declined invitations to lunch. The thought of facing the world alone, of being the widow, was too daunting. Her children, grown and living in other cities, called regularly, filled with concern. They encouraged her to get out, to find a hobby, to meet new people. But how do you find a hobby when your hands feel empty? How do you meet new people when your heart feels like a closed book? The weight of loneliness became a physical burden. She slept poorly, ate little, and found herself drifting through the days, a shadow in her own home. She was surviving, yes, breathing, eating, existing, but she wasn't living. She was simply waiting, waiting for the fog to lift, waiting for the pain to subside, waiting for something. One afternoon, almost a year after David passed, Anna was sitting in the garden, a place David had loved. The roses he had carefully tended were blooming, vibrant, and full of life. She remembered how he would talk to them, coaxing them to grow. And a thought, sharp and clear, cut through the fog of her grief. David wouldn't want this. He wouldn't want her to wither away. He wouldn't want her to be a shadow. David had been a man who embraced life, who found joy in every sunrise, every bloom, every shared moment. He had lived fully, and he would have wanted her to do the same. It was a tiny spark, almost imperceptible, but it was the first flicker of light in the long, dark year. It was the realization that honoring David wasn't about clinging to his memory in sorrow, but about carrying his spirit forward in life. It was the first step towards building a new life, not just surviving the old one, the unfolding of a new chapter. The journey from surviving to thriving is rarely a single leap. For Anna, it began with a series of small, almost imperceptible steps, each one a quiet act of defiance against the silence. It started in the garden. She began to tend David's roses, not as a chore, but as a conversation with his memory. She learned their names, their needs, their rhythms, and as the roses bloomed under her care, so too did a fragile sense of purpose within her. Then came the phone call. Her friend Margaret from the old bridge club called. "Anna," Margaret said, her voice gentle but firm, "we miss you. We're playing on Thursday. Just come. You don't have to play, just come for coffee." Anna almost said no. The thought of facing the laughter, the chatter, the sympathetic glances, it was overwhelming. But then she remembered David's roses and the tiny spark of purpose. She went. She sat quietly at first, sipping her coffee, listening to the familiar banter. She didn't play bridge that day, but she listened. And for the first time in a long time, she felt a faint echo of connection. She felt seen, not as the widow, but as Anna. That small act of courage opened a tiny door. Anna began to experiment. She joined a local walking group. At first, she walked slowly, often falling behind. But the fresh air, the gentle conversation, the rhythm of her own steps began to clear the fog from her mind. She started noticing the world again, the changing leaves, the sound of birds, the laughter of children in the park. She enrolled in a beginner's painting class at the community center. She had never painted before. David had been the artist in the family. Her first attempts were clumsy, the colors muddy. But the act of creating, of focusing on something new, filled a space that grief had left empty. She found joy in the process, not just the outcome. She discovered a new language of self-expression. She started volunteering at the local animal shelter, walking dogs. The unconditional love of the animals, their simple joy in a walk, reminded her of the uncomplicated happiness that still existed in the world. She found purpose in caring for another living being, a purpose that extended beyond her own grief. Each new activity was a thread, weaving a new tapestry of life. She wasn't replacing David. She was expanding Anna. She was rediscovering parts of herself she hadn't known existed or had forgotten. She was building a new identity, brick by brick, experience by experience. Her children noticed the change. "Mom," her daughter said during a phone call, "you sound lighter, happier." Anna realized it was true. The weight hadn't disappeared entirely, but it had shifted. It was no longer a crushing burden, but a part of her story, a part of who she was becoming. She was learning to carry her grief, not to be carried by it. She started inviting friends over for coffee again. She joined a book club. She even took a computer class, learning to navigate the online world that David had always handled. She was building a new network, a new community, a new support system. She was no longer just David's wife. She was Anna, and Anna was still here, living a life full of presence. Anna's transformation wasn't about forgetting David. It was about integrating his memory into a life that continued to grow and flourish. She still visited his grave, still talked to him in her thoughts, still cherished their shared memories. But now her life was also filled with new memories, new laughter, new purpose. She learned that grief is not a destination, but a journey. And on that journey, you can choose to carry your love forward, not just your sorrow. She realized that David wouldn't have wanted her to stop living. He would have wanted her to live fully, to embrace every moment, to find joy in the world, just as he had. I used to think that when you lose someone, you lose a part of yourself forever, and you do. But what I learned is that you also gain something. You gain a new kind of strength, a new appreciation for every single moment, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Anna became an inspiration to others. Friends who were also navigating loss came to her for advice, drawn by her quiet strength and her radiant spirit. She didn't offer platitudes. She offered her story. She offered hope. She offered a living testament that life, even after profound loss, can still be beautiful, still be rich, still be full of purpose. She started a small support group for widows and widowers at the community center. They didn't just talk about grief. They talked about gardening, about painting, about learning new things, about finding joy in the small moments. They talked about living. Anna, at 75, was not trying to be young again. She was trying to be herself, fully and completely, in this new chapter of her life. She was living a life full of presence, full of purpose, of new connections. She was a testament to the idea that the human spirit, even when broken, has an incredible capacity to heal, to adapt, to find new ways to bloom. The silence in her house was no longer empty. It was filled with the echoes of new laughter, the rustle of her paintbrushes, the quiet hum of her own contentment. She was still here, and her life, far from ending, had just begun a new, vibrant chapter. If you are navigating loss, if you feel like a part of you is gone, remember Anna's story. You are not alone. Your grief is a testament to the love you shared, and that love can be a foundation for a new beginning. You don't have to replace what you lost. You just have to make space for what comes next, for new joys, for new connections, for new parts of yourself you never knew existed. If Anna's story resonated with you, if it gave you a glimmer of hope, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your share could be the light that helps someone else find their way through the fog. And if you believe in the power of resilience, in the beauty of new beginnings, and in the strength of the human spirit at any age, then I invite you to subscribe to Still Here. Join our community as we continue to explore the profound stories that remind us that no matter what life throws our way, we are still here, and our best chapters are still being written. Pausa de 2-3 segundos. Pausa. Anna's journey shows us that healing our hearts and finding new purpose is possible. But sometimes, after a lifetime of shared responsibilities, the practical challenges that come with loss can feel overwhelming, especially when it comes to finances. Building a new life after loss is a testament to the human spirit. But often, that emotional journey comes with a new and terrifying challenge: facing your finances alone for the first time. In our next video, we'll tackle this head-on with the story of a 72-year-old widow who lost her husband and then discovered their retirement savings were nearly gone. What she did next is a masterclass in financial resilience. You are still here, you are still breathing, you are still worth every effort it takes to feel like yourself again.